I had to pre-drill some holes in order to mount the box onto the box. Now, one thing that you want to keep aware of, and I probably should have done in retrospect, it's pretty limited in here, so luckily I've already wired up the SandSmart solid state relay portion, the pins and the power cables along with this, so I don't have to worry about that portion of it anymore. But it's a fairly restricted space to work with. Now that we have the board, the sockets and the relay state mounted on the side with a piece of wood kind of helping secure it in there, and I also have a screw underneath here, we're going to mount the power strip. Now the power strip has little places for the screws to kind of come in and latch, and my daughter had a great idea, is that we could mount it, instead of trying to mount it and taking up space on the bottom, we would mount it here on the side. So we've basically screwed a piece of wood here on the outside, and we're going to mount we're going to drill screws in that are sticking out just a little bit, so we can hook in and slide it on. That's what we will do next. Now that we've sawed a hole and we've secured the power strip to the side, and we drilled a hole here in the side, we're going to work on securing the wood to the bottom of the toolbox so we can mount the Pi. Now that we've got the Pi mounted, we're going to connect the wire jumpers from the control box, from the solid state relay to the Pi, remembering which order the pins are at. And remember, we're mounting them into the GPIO sockets. All right, the fun part begins. I've wired up the Pi with pins. Now, note, I won't go over the pin layout because it's radically different. It's not the way you wouldn't think all side by side, so you'll have to refer to the Raspberry 3 pin layout for the GPIO ports. You'll see pin layouts like this, where you can see the GPIO 2, 3, 4, 14, 15, 17, 18, and 27 are there at the top. So you'll have to play around with the solid state relay, hooking your solid state relay to your Pi before getting this box in, so you know which pins go to which solid states. The next step now is to maybe mark on here which ones we want to be number 1 through 8 and hook them into the appropriate slot 1 through 8. Now it's going to be on the right hand side slot, so we'll bend these wires up and attach them to the appropriate space so we can light the right sockets up. I've decided to number them so that they're close to the actual switches. 1 and 2 are on this side, 7 and 8 are on this side. The odds are on the top and the evens are on the bottom. Now, it doesn't really matter which side of the switch you put the cable on, because either it's on or it's not, but I put them all on the right hand side just for consistency's sake. Now you note this is a smaller end so that all the wires are not showing. Now, one thing to be very careful about these guys is that they're just soldered on, so they don't take a lot of twisting and a lot of pulling, so be very gentle when you're inserting them. Also, when you're screwing these things on, it's like a little elevator. You screw them down, and the little clamp comes open, you stick the wire in, and then you screw it back, and then the elevator comes back up and kind of clamps it together. The next step, we're going to be taking our 4-inch black wires and connecting them out so we can connect them to the power source. Now that I've got my 4-inch ones, remember I'm going to put the smaller end into the switches. I have the larger end where I'm going to start connecting them with these 4 ports. So essentially I'm going to push each one of these in so all the live wire is connected. Now it would be nicer if I had an 8 port, but because my local hardware stores don't carry 8 port, and the project I needed to get done on time, we're sticking with the 4 ports and we're going to join them together. Okay, so now we've put the push connectors on all the live wires to connect them all, and at the end we hooked a final black cord. Note we did little horseshoes between the push connectors to make sure that they all share the same live wire. Again, stripping them, these push connectors require that you strip them 1/2 inch, so make sure that they're all in place. And now we're going to take apart the power cord and attach the ground, neutral, and hot. At last, here's the final product. We can see the outlets. We put I had to drill a little bit extra to get the faceplate on, drill the faceplate out so that they're covered inside the box. So essentially the only thing this box is hooked to besides the lights is the power cord. Everything else is controlled. Let's look inside the box. Inside the box we see the Sane Smart with all 8 hooked up, the power. So I stripped off a 3-prong extension cord that goes around and in, and you can see that I've wire nutted the neutral, the hot, and the ground. Kind of put them out of the way there. The Pi is down there and it's working wirelessly with my laptop, and then the power supply here. So I can see this is the power supply for the Pi, for the relay, and for the actual lights. Closing up the box, right around here you notice that my laptop has no wireless. It's not hooked up to that in any way other than to the wireless. And I have a quick Python program here that will execute all 8 channels. So here, as I'm going to run this in this is Raspbian. I'm going to run this. Okay, setting up the channels, and now I should be able to look over here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And done. So essentially it waits 2 seconds and then switches the one off and switches the other on. You can tell by the code here. And now, now that this hardware is set up, we can have kids develop any type of Python program. I'm going to look into Java, see how we can control Java, but essentially we'll be able to turn lights on and off using a Python script and possibly playing music. Now I'll need to rig up speakers also inside the box, or at least some sort of hookup for an external speakers. There's an audio port that I'd like to do to play music, and finally get those lights up on a tree. But that concludes this project.